Hey everybody. So we did a non-Half-Life mod and now we're back to that series, so I guess I should just go ahead and change the name of this series to Half-Life Mod Reviews. Just kidding, I'm not going to do that. It's just that Half-Life probably has one of the biggest mod communities in gaming, so there's a lot of good ones to talk about, but trust me, I do plan to talk about more non-Half-Life related mods in the future. With that out of the way, for the topic of this week's video, we've got Afraid of Monsters. If you're at all into Half-Life mods, then there's a fairly good chance you've heard of this one. It's definitely one of the more famous ones, and for a few really good reasons. The first reason is that PewDiePie did a Let's Play of it all the way back in, I think, 2012. I didn't have a gaming PC at the time, so the only way I could really experience any custom campaigns for shooters that I liked was to watch other people play them on the internet, and that was one of the first that I watched. The second reason is that it's just a damn good mod all around. Back when it was released in 2006, it was one of the front runners for Mod of the Year. I actually just checked and it won Single Player Mod of the Year, so it's definitely got some prestige to it. I'm a hipster though, so there's a bit of a caveat to this video. PewDiePie and everyone else has mostly played the director's cut version of this mod. For today's video, I'm playing the original release. Don't worry, I'm not about to go full smug shithead on you and say the original is better. It's not. If you're only gonna play one, go with the director's cut, but I just figured that since most of the discussion surrounding this mod is over the later version, it would be cool to take a look back at its original iteration and see some of the way it differs. Probably the most immediate and obvious difference for anyone who's played the DC version is that the whole opening section in the hospital is much more condensed. In the director's cut, there's a significant portion of the opening section where you're just wandering around this empty building while the atmosphere builds up, but here you get into the shit fairly quickly. There's still that bizarre nightmare sequence in the bathroom where you have to follow those red dots in the dark, which has a jump scare that no matter how many damn times I play this thing, always gets me.
Come on over here.
I don't record my voice for this footage anymore, so you all missed out on me going, "Oh, you cocksucker!" What a tragedy. Anyway, in the director's cut, like I said earlier, you wander around the hospital for a while before the shit actually hits the fan, but here, once you get out of that nightmare sequence, you're pretty much immediately fighting monsters. In terms of the roster of enemies you face off against, there's some pretty significant differences there as well. The Twitchers, those fast-moving creepers that made up the bulk of your opposition in the director's cut, are very much still here and very much still who you're going to be fighting most of the time, probably even more so, since there's overall less enemy types than in the updated version. The weird dogs with human heads haven't been made yet, and in their place you have these red-colored hound eyes. Those stretch texture abominations that replace the Vortigaunts are instead just Vortigaunts but retextured. And crabs are still just head crabs, but they look like pincushion ball sacks. You've got the spooky faces that are annoying and hard to kill, ghosts that shoot skulls at you and only show up like twice, and bull squids are the same as the regular game except they shoot semen at you. Almost forgot, but barnacles show up too and are also the exact same as the base game, as well as those fish monsters that have a name I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce. As far as the weapons go, this is also another area where the mod differs a lot from its successor. The kitchen knife hasn't been modeled yet and is instead just the combat knife from Opposing Force. Instead of a Glock, we have a Beretta for the pistol. The shotgun looks completely different, but I don't know what the hell either model is based off of. The revolver, or Deagle, actually, I got mixed up, would later become the SIG in the director's cut, and finally we have some kind of AK variant instead of the MP5K we would later get. I probably missed a few, but it's been a few years since I played the remastered version, so give me a break. Because it's been so long since I played the director's cut, I also couldn't really tell how different the level design was outside of the intro section, which I already talked about, and the final section in the woods, which is definitely a lot different. The forest section in the original mod is a lot shorter. You can't go in most of the houses like in the director's cut, and it's missing that part where you get stuck in a big pitch black field and all those shirtless zombies swarm you. It's also missing that infamous jump scare behind one of the houses that almost made PewDiePie drop an ethnic slur back in the day before the whole bridge incident. Oh, almost forgot. Another big gameplay difference is that your flashlight doesn't run on batteries and you can just keep it on indefinitely. I never ran out of batteries in the director's cut, so I didn't even really notice this. In terms of quality, I'd say the director's cut is better than this one in pretty much every way, but don't mistake that as me saying that it's bad, because it's not. The original rendition of Afraid of Monsters is really good and scary as all hell. It's just that the director's cut is such a straight upgrade in nearly every aspect that it makes this version somewhat obsolete. You can tell really easily that Rumpel, the guy who made this mod, was able to more fully realize his vision in the subsequent version. On the topic of the author of the mod, I'm sure anyone with even a modicum of familiarity with this mod already knows about Rumple, but in case you don't, here's the continuation of his development story. After Afraid of Monsters, he worked with a team of friends to make a follow-up mod, which was none other than Cry of Fear. Cry of Fear is a game that gets pushed hardcore by the bigger YouTubers every couple of years, and so is continuously rediscovered by new generations of players on a fairly consistent basis. It's a spiritual successor to Afraid of Monsters that leans a lot more heavily into the survival horror genre, foregoing most of the more fast-paced elements of the first mod's gameplay. It's also without a doubt one of the most visually impressive Half-Life mods ever made. Matter of fact, the first time I saw it, I actually assumed it was a mod for the second game. That's how good it looks. Cry of Fear was so popular that it eventually got a standalone release on Steam as a free game. Since then, Rumple hasn't released any new projects, unfortunately. He initially planned to do a full Source Engine remake of Cry of Fear, but development on that was going a lot slower than he wanted it to, so it was cancelled, and he focused his attention on music instead and started his own band that does dark ambient music in the style of the game's soundtrack. Actually, I looked it up and they're classified as depressive black metal, so I don't fucking know what microgenre they fit into. Anyway, that's where a majority of his focus has been for a while, but apparently he tossed around the idea of remaking Cry of Fear in Unreal Engine 4 at some point, before deciding to start work on an original game instead. From what I was able to find, his next game is once again going to be a horror FPS similar to the last two games he's done, and the hope is that it'll be successful enough to get funding to start an actual development team, who will then start work on a full remake of Cry of Fear. That's all based on a few Facebook posts from like a year or two ago that I was able to dig up. I don't think he's posted publicly about it since then. There definitely hasn't been an official reveal or trailer for whatever he's working on now. With all that said, I hope the work goes well on whatever he's working on, and assuming it's still happening, I look forward to playing it one day as I greatly enjoy everything he's worked on so far. There may not be much reason to play the original version of Afraid of Monsters, but if you're a die-hard fan, then it might be worth taking a look to see where it all started. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to get back to working on my bigger project, which is a Let's Play where I decimate my own vocal cords for screaming at a horror game. Just kidding, I have other people in my home, so I'd rather not get kicked out and have to resort to living in a trash can. A pretty big dumpster wouldn't be too bad, though. Hey everybody, if you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thanks. It means a whole lot. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all your standard YouTube outro stuff that you always hear. And other than that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.